Today on the Norse Benchwarmers podcast, Garrett and Colton recap the final rounds of Wimbledon before the boys break down a historic week in Reds baseball. And in the spirit of college football 25 coming out, we finally do a segment talking about who we like and who we don't like this coming season. And to cap it all off, we continue our preview of the NFL season, taking a look at the AFC East. All that and more on the Norse Benchwarmers podcast. Welcome back to the Norse Benchwarmers podcast. I'm your host, Colton Smith. Here joined by producer Josh Northcutt, co-host Ben Miller, and of course, director Garrett Jordan. Boys, we're back. Had a brilliant night last night. What about you guys? How was your weekend? How's your week off? Or not off, but...
it was good. Worked, watched some NASCAR, watched a little bit of IndyCar. So, yeah, overall great weekend. Nothing too fancy.
Up until 4 a.m. playing college football. I'm exhausted, but at 9:30 tonight, I'll be right back on playing again.
I'll be right there with you after I finish editing this video. I want to say right now, if there's a couple less lower thirds, maybe a slightly less quality, it's for college football purposes, okay? It's acceptable, right? But yeah, started the Purdue rebuild, and it was a rough start. But hey, we won more games season one than we did the season before I got there. So I see that as a win. But let's get into our the big event of last weekend, Wimbledon. Garrett, I'll let you talk about it. But Carlos Alcaraz, starting with the gentleman here, repeats with a sweep of Novak Djokovic. He didn't sweep him last year, but he swept him this year. He looked like the class of the tourney anytime I tuned into him. Always seemed like, yeah, there was times where he was challenged for sure, but he always bounced back and ended up getting the win. And there were some questions thrown around in certain group chats in the past week. So Garrett, I'll ask you, is he the best Spaniard? And also, what kind of potential do you see him just looking at the grander scheme all time in tennis?
Yeah, so right now, I think Carlos Alcaraz probably has the highest ceiling of any young player that we've seen. He's already won, just off the top of my head, 3, if not 4 majors already, and he's still in his very early 20s. Mm-hmm. So he's winning majors, and he's winning them at the young age that he's winning them at, which is kind of the formula that we saw with guys like Federer and Nadal. So I think with Alcaraz, we're looking at the next generation of tennis greats. As far as what the future holds for him, I honestly just see him, absolutely pun intended, holding serve over the next couple years, and he'll just be a dominant factor in the sport of men's tennis for years to come.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the Wimbledon, any big storylines kind of coming out of that and how it all wrapped up for the men?
Yeah, so one thing I do want to highlight from that finals match between Alcaraz and Djokovic is that Alcaraz broke Djokovic 5 times. 5 break points in a major finals is not something to scoff at. That's incredibly impressive that you're able to break your opponent 5 times on their own serve. So it's no wonder that he won this match in straight sets. Breaking your opponent once, even twice alone, is incredibly hard, speaking from experience. So the fact that he was able to do it 5 times against one of the best players in the world really just cements his status as the future of tennis.
And then moving on to the women's side of the bracket, 31st ranked Barbora Krejcikova stunned the world, knocking off Jasmine Paolini. I'm sorry, all my Italians out there. Sorry, Bill. So my question is, was this lightning in a bottle for Barbora, or should we expect her to be a force at other tourneys?
For me personally, when it comes to Krejcikova, she's had a very long career. So I think she turned pro back in the mid 2010s. Mm-hmm. And it's not like she hasn't had success on this scale. Obviously, she had a decade-long career at this point, so she has to have had at least some level of success to have this longevity. I remember back in the late 10s that she was very big on the doubles scene. I know she's won a couple majors on the doubles scene. Doing research on this, I saw back in 2021 she won the French Open ladies singles. That was her first major title, so it's good to see her back in the winners column at a major. So I'm sure I would hope that this is not lightning in a bottle and that she can sort of ride this momentum this late in her career. But yeah, I guess it'll just be interesting to see how she plays going forward from here now that she has all this momentum.
All right. And is there anything else in the world of tennis to talk about in the women's side?
Not on the women's side, but I guess on general, between Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, there's not too many like high-level tournaments that you'll see the pros participate in. Honestly, the two that jump out in my mind are you have a Masters 1000 in Toronto, and then that one wraps up, and like the next day you have the Masters 1000 starting here in Cincinnati. So those are, and a lot of players use the Cincinnati 1000 as a tournament to tune up for the U.S. Open. So if you live in Cincinnati, there's going to be a lot of the world's best players there. So I highly recommend you go. But other than that, we're just sort of going to start getting into the swing of things on hard court season. So it'll be fun to see the players transition to yet another surface.
All right. Hopefully I can follow that a little bit more. Wimbledon definitely piqued my interest for sure, but we do have some other sports to talk about here. NASCAR, where defending champion Ryan Blaney got his second win of the year.
Second win.
Second win of the year at Pocono, and one knock a lot of people had on Blaney was his inability to win a lot of races. He still has even in his championship year, the most wins in a season 3. Is this maybe a chance for him to get up 4 or 5 and maybe defend his title?
He's one of the hottest drivers right now in all of NASCAR. Over the last 6 races, only 3 drivers are averaging top 10 finishes. Tyler Reddick, obvious, Ryan Blaney, and Chris Buescher.
Oh, Chris Buescher.
Chris Buescher
Also needs a win, though.
He does.
But that being said, I mean, there's no reason why I don't think Blaney can't turn around and potentially repeat. Ford seems to be figuring it out. As I mentioned, Buescher being up there too. 2 to 3 in the top 10 average right now. 4 drivers. We could have been wrong a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see Ryan Blaney take that next step to try to get more wins later in the season. But, yeah, it's just great to see Ford. They're starting to find their momentum along with teams like Team Penske, RFK. Earlier in the season, they were very successful. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to see what these Fords can do in the for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, 5 of the last 8 winners were Ford drivers, so they definitely seem to be finding something there. It's noteworthy to mention that Chris Buescher and Ryan Blaney both last season kind of didn't really find their stride until the second half of the season, so it'll be interesting to see if they can really turn up the heat as we get into the playoffs here. We're going to be a little short on NASCAR, so we can talk some baseball here. And this week in Reds pain, it wasn't very painful. It wasn't as painful as the week we had the Marlins and the Rockies. Went 5-2 against those. We have a new friend on the team who is looking like a Hall of Famer, in the words of, I believe, Josh. Put him in the Hall of Fame. Yes.
Put him in, yeah. Well, Cooperstown. Wow, Cooperstown. Yeah. But anyway, so
all right then, I'll let you take it.
Anyway, so Rhys Hines continues his hot start. He's 9 of 20.
Whoa, let's hold off on that. Let's hold off on that for a little bit, okay? Let's hold off on that.
What are we holding off on?
Little Rhys Hines talk. I think I have a little bit saved for later.
Okay, fine. I'll hold off.
All right,
Anyway, Rhys Hines continued his hot start, and I'll leave it at that.
Spoiler alert.
However, Tyler Stevenson and Ellie De La Cruz also had a week themselves. Stevenson hit for 360 with 4 home runs, and De La Cruz hit for 333 with 2 home runs. Very impressive week by the Reds, but I'm going to put an asterisk on it, gentlemen. It's the 2 worst teams in the NL.
I've been putting an asterisk on it the whole time. Like, you guys just wait till we get some real pitching back and play against some real teams.
Ben, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, with Rhys Hines getting the call up, though, I feel like this is a great addition to that offense. So we'll just see in years to come, or this upcoming season, especially when we get into the second half of the year, what this offense can do with him. Because we all know the Reds, they got talent, though. They just been all over the place, and like we talked about last week, that roller coaster season.
And made the thumbnail.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll just see what they have in store down the road.
Yeah. Well, what's the next turn on the roller coaster?
Well, currently they are 47-50, 6.5 games out of Milwaukee. So it's close, but not as close as what we would hope. 3 games back in the wild card. The rest of the month they've got at Washington, at Atlanta, at Tampa Bay, and Chicago Cubs. at home. Those are 3 winnable series. They should be able to beat Washington. They should be able to beat Tampa Bay, and they should be able to beat the Cubs. Atlanta, we'll see. Atlanta's kind of been a roller coaster ride ever since they lost Acuna, so that's debatable. But if you can get back to 500 or maybe a game or 2 above, the season's not over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Until we get to September.
Here's my opinion on this. Sorry to butt in here, boys.
Go right ahead.
Go right ahead, man.
I love it when you butt in.
So the Reds, like Josh was saying, their upcoming schedule, they have a long road trip coming out of the break. You're playing a team that is, for the most part, probably out of it. You're playing a team that is competing for a wild card spot, and you're playing a team that is firmly entrenched itself in the wild card spot. I'd be happy to go 500 on this road trip, but that final home series against the Cubs leading into this break, you got to win that series against the Cubs. You cannot lose that series. I cannot understate how important that series is.
I 100% agree. There's really no debating that. That's got to be one you win. You can't lose any division games or division series, because once August hits, it becomes a division rivalry of a lot of teams and a lot of matchups. But just to do a quick throw out there of where everybody stands right now on the year, Cleveland is 4.5 games up in their division. Baltimore is 1. Seattle is 1. What is going on with Seattle, by the way, Garrett? We were talking they were 7-8 games up, and now they're 1 over the dreaded Houston Astros.
Wow! I will tell you exactly. What's happening. It's that they can't hit. The bats aren't there. The pitching, electric. Love the pitching. They just haven't hit. I heard today. I was listening to another podcast earlier today. The player with the best OPS on that team right now is Kyle Raleigh with like a 736, I believe is what they said. When the best player in your team is, I think at this point, below league average offense wise, that's not good. And the Houston Astros have just been doing Houston Astros thing and coming alive and getting hot at the right time. So yeah, Mariners fans are scared.
Fair enough.
Wait, so you listen to other podcasts?
Yeah, I do. Shocker. It's crazy.
How dare you? How dare you?
I use it for inspiration for ours.
You know what they don't have is a winner's circle, and that is what time it is now for the winner's circle. I'm gonna go ahead and get started and give my usual general winner's circle. It is everybody who played college football yesterday, every college football fan, or even if you're not a huge college football fan, the sports gaming industry. What are you looking at me like that for?
Keep going.
The sports gaming industry just won, because that is the one day down, already the greatest game I have played since NCAA football 14. All right, what's up, Josh?
You stole my winner circle. Ben, go ahead.
All right, so my winner circle this week, I'm going to go.
To get it done to me, or not done to me. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. I'm going in the world of IndyCar. I'm going with Scott McLaughlin, first oval win in his IndyCar career over the weekend at Iowa. So how about that for Team Penske?
Heck yeah, that dude is hot. That dude
Definitely.
is scorching hot.
Yep.
Yeah,
Garrett.
I think you already know your winner.
Yeah, you probably already figured out who's in my winner circle this week. Guys, it's Reese Hines. How could it not be? Reese Hines, who are you? Who are you? Where did you come from? He was called up in the first game of the Rockies series. He's only been with the team for 7 games. He's been with them for the Rockies series and for the Marlins series. But in that time, he has 11 hits, which feature 5 homers, 3 doubles, and a triple, with 11 RBIs, as well as 2 stolen bases. He's got speed as well. He's got speed and he mashes. It's incredible. His slash line reads .423 batting average, .464 on base percentage, and a 1.192 slugging for a 1.657 OPS. This outstanding effort earned him National League Player of the Week in the first week at the major league level for him. Fellas, I was checking his BREF. He's already got 1 WAR accrued. What? This dude is nuts. This dude's insane.
Yeah, there's no arguing that. The stats that I just had, like I said, he was 9 of 23 over the last 7 games with 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 2 doubles, 1.527 OPS, which was 3rd on the week, only behind Brett Rooker and Julio Rodriguez. So maybe Julio's bat's heating up. Yeah, this Reese Hines thing, I mean, in the group chat, I told everybody, be prepared for strikeouts, which he does. He struck out 7 times also in those 23 appearances. Mm-hmm. But when he connects with the ball goes a very, very, very far way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, he was the first rookie since home run distance has been recorded to hit both of his first 2 home runs, 445 plus.
Yes, that is also accurate.
Wow.
Drops bombs.
He's got power.
absolute
wee
nukes.
bit, yeah.
Nukes.
So let's go ahead and move on in the spirit of college football, NCAA's, or what are they calling it? EA Sports College Football. It's such a mouthful.
College Football 25.
College Football 25. That's what we're calling it. College Football 25 drop, and we are going to go through the world of college football and give kind of some of our favorites. Maybe there are the favorites that everyone has, or maybe some sneaky picks there in the lower end of the top 25, or even unranked. So we're going to give some of our insights on that because we are just so excited for this college football season. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and start on this. Josh, Ben, whoever wants to start.
You want to
Let's
start?
hear it.
All right. So we're starting off with top 25, right?
Anybody you want.
It's just anybody you like,
Just bring up
anybody
somebody
you
you wanna
don't.
talk about.
Well, let's start positive. Who do you like?
Okay, so I'm looking at number 9, Utah. Obviously, they finished 8-5 last season, 5-4 in conference, and we all know their quarterback Cam Rising, who is an absolute stud and is a really good player when they're a really good. Actually, they're a really good team when he's on the field and when he's healthy. So
Absolutely.
he missed all of last season with a knee injury. He led the Utes to back-to-back Pac-12 championships and 2 Rose Bowl appearances. In spring, he completed 15 out of 19 passes for 208 yards in the spring game. They bring in Dorian Singer, wide receiver out of USC, and Damian Alford from Syracuse. So I feel like this is going to be a great offense to go against. And not only their offense, though, but their defense. They're returning 8 starters on defense.
That's really impressive in this day and age.
Yeah, for sure. Which allowed last season 19.3 points per game. That's absolutely insane. And they were one of the best defenses in the country, not only in the Pac-12. So I'm just curious to see how this defense is going to take that next step and potentially compete for a national championship.
I learned firsthand yesterday how hard it is to play defense in college football.
Right, yeah.
And it's always been a high-powered, a lot of athletes on the field. A lot of times you'll have those high-powered offenses, but there's something to be said about having that. Josh can attest as a Michigan fan, having that gritty defense that isn't going to allow as many points, but they also have a really nice offense as well. I think it's been a couple years now they've been kind of knocking on the door of trying to get into that college football playoff, and for one reason or another they haven't done it, but this could really be the year for Utah.
It all depends, though, on Rising's health. Like plain and simple, as
Absolutely.
you mentioned.
Yeah.
The dude is a stud, Heisman contender potentially.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt about it. But I still got to see him healthy. He's been banged up here and there, but when he's on the field, he's one of the best in college football. So we'll see what happens. The Big 12 is wide open. So
I love the vibes in Utah.
But I'm going to go ahead and stay in the Big 12 and talk about a team that I don't so much like, and it's the team that's been the talk of the entire offseason. I'm going to talk about the Colorado Buffalo.
Imagine that.
I need an explanation on where all this hype's coming from. I've read articles they're going to make the college football playoff.
I can explain it. I can explain it in three people. Deion Sanders, what's his name? Shadur Sanders, and Travis Hunter.
Okay, you can give me,
Apparently that's all you need to win
can
the
give me those
national
3,
championship.
and I get those 3 are Deion's. I love Deion.
Absolutely.
Shador, I'm still iffy on his pro potential. That's just me.
I think he's got it.
And Travis Hunter, I mean, that dude's an absolute dog. There's no way I'm going to allow him to play both ways in the NFL, but I'm interested to see which side he leans when it comes to that.
Yep.
But there's nothing else there, guys. They're starting a freshman left tackle. Always terrifying, the most important position. Their O-line was absolute garbage last year. So, yeah, they had to go out this year. The unit struggled significantly, as I mentioned, ranking them on one of the worst in sacks allowed. The additions of transfers, okay, but I don't see it right away. I don't see them competing with the likes of Utah.
No, absolutely not.
I don't see them competing with the likes of, this is going to be scary to say in a college football podcast or conversation, Kansas. I'm telling you, man.
That's always just so
It
weird.
doesn't make sense, but... Oh, and they're going to lose to the Bearcats. But anyway, just had to throw that
Yeah,
in.
you had to make sure y'all knew.
But I will say, the weapons are going to be there. They got Travis Hunter. They got Jimmy Horn. They added transfer Will Shepard. You got Shadur Sanders, who's trying to prove himself to be the number 1 guy. But all in all, I just can't see it. But this stat blew my mind, and I'll finish with this. Opponents rushing last year, 2,117. Colorado, 827
Wow.
yards. Anyone who knows me, Josh don't like that.
That's impressive.
Impressively bad.
Yeah, and not in the way that you typically say impressive, but that's certainly impressive. I'm actually going to stay in the Big 12 with what I want to. It's such a wide open conference.
It is.
Definitely,
It's such
yeah.
a fun conference. I want to follow this year. I got the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Those Cowboys, they are bringing back the most starters of anybody in the Big 12. They got QB Alan Bowman returning for his 7th season in college
Get a
football.
job.
Get a job, man. He's probably interning over at State Farm this summer or something.
I know plenty of people who took 7 years to get a degree. They're called doctors.
And then we got Ollie Gordon II, who's apparently the cheesiest guy in NCAA football. Like I've heard he's insane to play against. He also was the FBS rushing leader last season. I mean, their offense is set. I would say their offense is fine. It's their defense that is the question that struggled last year. If they can improve on the defensive end, continue to be the great offensive team that they are, we could see them in the college football playoff.
So you think they're good enough to win then the Big 12?
I think at their peak. I give a high ceiling.
That's fair, because I mean, the way it's going to work with college football and especially the Big 12 is you're going to have to win the conference. You're not going to get one of the
True.
extra or wild card
At
spots,
large.
at large or wild card spots, because they're going to give it to the SEC teams. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
true.
mean, just going back to the Cowboys offense, though, like I was really excited to see Ollie Gordon this year. Is that his name? Ollie Gordon?
Ollie Gordon.
Ollie
Ollie
Gordon,
Dog.
the second, if you want to be exact.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he had a great season last year, leading the nation in rushing yards. So I feel like he can potentially be a Heisman candidate this year, and he carries that offense really well. So I can see the Cowboys making some noise in the Big 12. So we'll see what happens down the road. It would not surprise me one bit.
Yeah, that Big 12 is wide open. I mean, you got Utah, you mentioned. Kansas State's got to be in there. I think Oklahoma State's definitely going to give a run. Kansas,
Jayhawks.
the Jayhawks.
I'm
It
telling
feels
you.
weird to say it about
I'm telling
football,
you,
but
man,
that team, yeah.
they're gonna be special. But I'm gonna go ahead and change the conference. and
America's team.
I'm gonna change conferences up, and I'm gonna talk about the one conference that everybody loves talking about, and it's the SEC. Well, I'm not talking about Georgia. I'm not talking about Tigers. I'm not talking about Roll Tide. I'm talking about Ole Miss football.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you right now, I'm all aboard the lane train, and I'm calling it that Ole Miss will win the SEC this year. Bold take,
He
hot
said
take,
that on
all
the
you want.
podcast. We got that on record.
Bold take, hot take. Ole Miss will win the SEC this year. I am all in on Jackson Dart. I think he takes a step up. I love the weapons in Trey Harris and Antoine Wells. Plus, I'm going to mess up his name. It's Braden Priestcorn. He's the tight end there. If you don't follow his wife on TikTok, definitely do. They do a voiceover of their little boy. It is absolutely hilarious to watch. The running backs, they took a step back. They lost Judkins to the University of Ohio State. However, they do have Bentley back. They have Parrish back. And then they got Amos from Miami, Ohio. So there is depth there. It is something about this team, and I think Lane Kiffin is ready to take the next step, especially now that his dad has retired from college football. Probably poor taste to bring that up now, but it was mainly talking about Nick Saban. Nick Saban has owned Lane Kiffin. Yeah.
I mean, man, that's a lot of great information and a lot of great points, but it'll be interesting to see if Ole Miss can take that next step and compete for an SEC championship, especially with all the talent that they're bringing in, because in recent years, we've seen them in the top 10. Everyone,
there's been something cooking up over there in Ole Miss for a while.
Yeah,
Lane Kiffin's been. They're one of the more fun teams to watch in college football. My favorite team to watch.
I'm gonna say I love Lane Train. He is by far my favorite coach, not coaching Michigan or
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely an underrated coach. In a way, I feel like he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I mean, like I said, he's brought great teams to Ole Miss, and it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see if they can finally break through that wall and compete for the SEC and challenge Alabama and a couple other teams.
I don't think Alabama's the one they got to worry about.
Let's start talking about Alabama. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
let's hear about Alabama.
Alabama. All right.
Get your popcorn ready, boys.
Sweet home
right, so-
Alabama.
Alabama. We obviously know no more Nick Saban. We are now in the Kalen DeBoer era at Alabama, and also Jalen Milroe is back. So it'll be interesting to see how he'll develop this year, because last year it wasn't the best. Well, at the beginning of
It was a roller coaster ride.
yeah. Like at the beginning of the year, it was a roller coaster ride, just like you mentioned. He ended up getting benched in their loss to Texas in Tuscaloosa. But as the season progressed, though, he's gotten much better. He led Alabama to the SEC championship with a win over Georgia and led them to the Rose Bowl and a berth into the college football playoff, which unfortunately they did lose to Michigan.
Fortunately.
Unfortunately. Whoa. Unfortunately.
Yeah, what do you mean
Blue.
unfortunate? I'm not a
Go
Michigan
Blue.
fan, but like I'll take Michigan over Alabama any day.
I mean,
It's
unfortunate
two
for-
of lesser evils.
Unfortunate for them, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
So, I mean, offense looked explosive in spring. They bring in tailbacks. They bring back tailbacks, Jamarian Miller and Justice Haynes, and they bring in Washington transfer Jermaine Burton. So it'll be interesting to see how Cohen will do in his first year at Alabama. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he'll develop Jalen Milroe into a better player than what he was last year, because you've seen him last year with Michael Penix, though. Absolute stud, led them to the national championship. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what Milroe and DeBoer have in year one with each other.
Yeah, I mean that he's got a lot on his plate over there. I mean, I already saw a photo of the top Alabama recruits, and 9 of them went to Auburn, none of them went to Alabama, and that's something he's going to have to work on. They lost a lot of players in the transfer portal and to the pros, so it's a lot. I think they're ranked a little too high in here. I think Josh do you have some thoughts on Alabama?
I think they're going to take a step back, and by a step back, I'm making the bold take that they don't make the college football playoff.
Is that a bold take?
Yes.
Okay.
They're
because
still
they get
projected top
favoritism
10.
in the SEC,
They're still
right?
projected top 10, but I don't see it. I kind of want to be wrong because I feel bad for. Is it DeBoer? That is how you pronounce his last name? Correct?
DeBoer, yeah.
Okay, DeBoer, because nobody wants the job after the guy. It's a job nobody wants.
Right. Any coach is going to look like a step down from Nick Saban.
Yes, correct. So maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it. I also don't buy Milroe and the hype. I never have. It's just me, but
I see the eye candy. I don't necessarily see the Heisman talk and whatnot. I think the Heisman talk needs to be thrown maybe more to Ole Miss, maybe over to Texas and
Georgia.
Georgia,
Carson
of
Beck would
course.
definitely like to speak to
He
you.
would love to speak to me. I'd love to have him on the podcast. Explain why his eyes are the kid.
Thought exercise.
Uh-huh.
Cam Rising or Jalen Milroe?
Cam
Rising.
Really? We're all on that train?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any?
Best availability is what is it? The best some availability. Anyway, I will
Best
take,
ability is availability.
Thank you.
There you go.
I will take Jalen Milroe.
That 4 a.m. session.
It truly is.
It's kicking in right now.
I'll take Jalen Milroe because he doesn't miss games.
Garrett, do you
That's
have
fair.
anything on Alabama over there as a SEC opponent?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. All right. So one last.
I don't like talking about them.
Nobody
Period.
likes
Good
talking about
or
them.
bad. I don't like talking about them.
Nobody cares to talk about them. So fair enough. One more team I want to mention here is the NC State Wolfpack. I know Josh because he's a UNC fan in basketball. Apparently that translates over to.
I just hate the pussy pack.
All right. But you look at this team, 34 wins over the past 4 seasons. Their QB room has always been a mess, but now they have Coastal Carolina legend Grayson McCall behind center.
Wait, they're who landed McCall?
Correct.
Crap. Go ahead, continue.
Where'd you think he went?
I didn't know where
You
he
didn't
went.
know.
Yeah, I didn't know where he went, but I was hoping it wasn't there.
NC
that explains
State.
a lot.
Yeah, NC State, and they got a nice early measuring stick game against Tennessee. If they can win that, that'll be a tough one. But if they can win that and they can beat ACC opponent Clemson, it's a pretty easy ride for these guys. And I think they could probably end up winning the ACC or even getting an at-large bid. I know those are all going to the SEC, but if they do go somewhere else, I think NC State could definitely be one that could get that if they can capitalize on the opportunity in front of them.
Yeah, no, Grayson McCall has been one of the most underrated players in college football.
Absolutely.
I kind of wanted to be Coastal Carolina in the game because I thought he was there, and then I realized, oh, he's not there anymore. So not going to be Coastal Carolina anymore. But no, I mean, the ACC is another conference that's wide open, just kind of like the Big 12. You can see Florida State, you can see Miami, Florida, both coming back. Long shot, maybe North Carolina, but highly doubt that. Clemson is a team I was going to talk about, but we're running just short on time a little bit. So there's questions there, but yeah, no, with McCall and that. Dang it! If North Carolina State wins the Ben, take something.
Yeah. All right. So back to Grayson McCall, though. It'll be interesting to see how he'll do in his first year at NC State after transferring from Coastal Carolina. I mean, just looking at his stats right here, he threw for at least 2,400 yards with at least 24 touchdowns and fewer than 3 interceptions. So those stats are absolutely wild, and I feel like that's great to take that next step into a tougher conference, the ACC.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It'll be interesting to see how he translates to the ACC.
Yeah, and with a bunch of guys who are coming in, like Noah Rogers, Wesley Grimes from Wake Forest, I feel like they can do a lot of great things on both offense and defense. So we'll just see if they can try to challenge teams like Clemson and Florida State to take that next step and try to win an ACC championship.
I do want to throw one more wild take out there since we got a little more time.
Go for it.
Penn State.
Yes.
All right.
They're going to get over the hump and make the college football playoff.
Okay.
Drew Waller is going to be a finalist in the Heisman contenders as well.
Okay.
I am all aboard. Finally, Franklin getting over the hump.
11 years in.
Yeah, finally getting over the hump and earning his money at Penn State. I am all aboard Drew Waller. I think he may be potentially top 10 pick in the NFL draft. The kid is exactly what you look for in a stereotypical type quarterback. I like them a lot this year.
I'll put it this way. I see a team fail over and over again. I typically will just be like, I'll believe it when I see it. And that's where I am with Penn State. I see exactly why you have those takes, why you have that opinion. And I could totally see it happening this year, but I'll believe it when I see it.
I mean,
They get Ohio State at home. It's going to be the whiteout.
the wideout.
Oh, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, those are good. Those are good points, though. I mean, and like, in recent years, I mean, Penn State, they've had great teams over the years.
Absolutely.
I mean, the thing is, though, they just can't beat really good ones in the Big Ten. Like Ohio State, they've dominated them the last few years, and along with Michigan. So teams in that
Those
nature,
are the
though.
only 2 good teams
Yeah,
in the Big Ten. Last couple of years. We had Michigan State that one year was
and
pretty
now
good.
you get Oregon, but yeah. So.
Yeah. Then I get Oregon. That'll be interesting. to see
But
how
yeah,
that works.
now that we're bringing more teams into the Big Ten, like Oregon, USC, Washington, who were great contenders last year, it'll be interesting to see if James Franklin can finally take that next step and try to knock off a couple of these teams to potentially clinch a college football playoff berth.
Yeah, make a little run, eh?
I mean, just like you, when it comes to Penn State, I got to see it and then I'll believe it.
Nah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of scenarios in college sports or any sport that I could point that to. But it is now time to move on to our triple threat trivia. I wonder what theme Garrett chose for this week.
If you pick I swear, if you pick tennis again.
And I wonder, he said something in the before the show about Reebok. Is there anything? Is that just like a random thought, or is that something to do with our trivia question?
That has absolutely nothing to do
Okay.
with the trivia
It
question.
was
That was just a random Garrett thought that popped into my head.
We have a lot of those.
Yes, we do indeed. Okay, gentlemen. My trivia question for you today is, of course, college football themed. How could it not be?
Of course.
All right.
With the release of the new college football video game and us bringing college football into the Norse Benchwarmers fold, finally.
Yeah, it took a long time.
It did. It took way longer than it should have. I want to know, and I want to see if you guys know, what the most winningest program in the FBS to have never won a national championship is.
Wow.
Is it okay? Is it the most wins or is it win percentage?
I went based off of wins,
Okay.
not win percentage. Because win percentage, you get some weird teams in there.
I can tell you who it's not. Tell you who it is. We may have a technical difficulty thing. We might have a little transition here. Just like we'll be back and
yeah.
SpongeBob transition. We'll get a SpongeBob transition when we actually get an answer.
Of course. Of course.
Wow, I was not ready for that. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
I will.
I want one.
I can see that you guys are struggling with this, so I will give you a hint.
Please,
Okay,
God,
please.
please.
There are 2 teams right now. They are tied, and they're both Power 5 schools.
Okay.
Yep, that sure narrowed it down.
I'm going through real fast. Like I mean,
All right, fellas, I'll be collecting guesses here very soon.
All right.
Your time on Jeopardy is running out.
Oh God. Oh, cool.
I think I got him.
UCLA.
I was about to say UCLA. All right.
Oklahoma State.
UC.
Definitely.
That
guess they're
is
Power 5
definitely
now.
not the team.
Man, why can't I think of
Okay,
anything?
give us a conference.
Ole Miss? Oh yeah, get the conference.
I will give you the conference of both teams. If
Okay.
you can
Yeah, I
name me one
didn't-
of them, I'll give you half a point. How about that?
Okay, that's fine.
All right, the conferences for the teams are the Big Ten and the ACC. Back to deep thought.
Virginia.
Ooh, what if it's one of those Pac-12 teams that moved?
It is not a team that moved. I will let you know. It is
No.
not. This is not like
Okay,
a trick
that's helpful.
question.
Okay, that helps. Because I wasn't even thinking about those. Yeah, we need to get this. I just can't manifest a team in my head right now. This is so.
It's not Rutgers, is it?
It's not.
No, it's not. It is not Rutgers.
It's
no.
not like Penn State, is it?
No, they won.
They
under-
won one?
They
Yeah.
won under Joe
It is
Bob.
not Penn State.
It's been a while.
Michigan State?
There's no way.
Oh, wait.
No, it is
If it was
not.
Michigan
who is-
State,
who is-
who is
Yeah,
it?
I give up.
All right, boys. The 2 teams that have the most wins in program history to never win a national championship are the Virginia Tech
Oh, my
Hokies
God.
with Virginia Tech Hokies and the Wisconsin Badgers.
Wisconsin?
Both
Wow.
both programs.
I knew Virginia Tech was like that. Sorry.
Both programs, since their inception, they each have 737 wins. Virginia Tech's football program played its first game in 1902. Wisconsin played their first football game in 1892. 737 games between each of them, and not a national championship in sight.
Dang.
Interesting.
And Garrett gets his first point.
That was actually a really good question.
That was a
Garrett.
really good question.
That was really
We
good.
need more questions like that, but maybe not because we went far over our time. So I'm just going to prepare you all
Too
right
much of a
now.
thought exercise, I suppose.
I want to prepare you all right now. This episode is going to go over our typical hour mark, but it is time to continue our series of going through the NFL preview. We are in the 6th ranked division, the AFC East, or least, whatever you want to call them. This includes the New England Patriots, the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets. I want to go ahead and get started with New England, who finished 4-13 last season, their worst season since 1992. Wow. And they had some bad seasons back then, but yeah, we're kind of went back to that. The evil empire is officially complete. They have a new coach in Jared Mayo. He won a Super Bowl with Bill Belichick. He's been coaching under Bill Belichick for 5 years. They have a new QB in Drake May. They're in uncharted territory right now, and we'll see how it all works out. I feel like a lot of this season lies on just how these guys all get along, how the puzzle pieces fit. It just feels like a puzzle that hasn't been brought together yet, and we just have to see what it's going to look like on the field. So I think there's potential there. Maybe not this season, but if they improve from the start to the finish, I'll take it as a win.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just want to point out a couple stats from last year about the Patriots. Points per game, it was 13-9, tied worst in the league. 276.2 yards per game, third worst. And back to Drake May, I feel like this is a great pickup for the New England Patriots. I mean, they couldn't afford to bring back Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, so the best thing to do was to draft a quarterback just to get that fresh start. But and with these wide receivers coming in, Jalen Polk from LSU and Javon Baker from UCF, I feel like
Jalen Polk's from Washington.
What? Oh, I'm sorry, Washington. So
Garrett's favorite LSU receiver, Jalen Polk.
So, yeah, last year they lacked a reliable playmaker, especially on the offense. So it'll be interesting to see how these two guys will develop that chemistry on the field and along with Drake May as well. And also KJ Osborne. I feel like this is a win for the Patriots because he's shown a lot of veteran leadership with the Vikings, and I feel like he can bring a lot of potential veteran leadership to these two young guns who are coming in on the offense. So
they don't call KJ Osborne Mr. Reliable for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's not a franchise guy.
I'm going to go with no way.
Really?
I don't like Osborne. Polk, I was kind of high on. Baker is very good out of Central Florida. Kendrick Bourne. But none of those four guys are a number one wide receiver, and they arguably may not even be a number two wide receiver. This team still has no weapons for Drake May. It's going to be an absolute rough year for them. Defensively, they should be tough.
Right.
Matthew Judon, Christian Gonzalez. But I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not buying the New England Patriots. They're still going to be bad again.
No, I completely agree that they're going to be bad, but I don't think they are expecting to be good. I don't see. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that are saying that in the New England circles.
I'm gonna say, have you met anybody from the New England area?
Well,
they're gonna win the Super Bowl.
Oh, I'm sure. But I mean, I really like their pickup of Antonio Gibson on a 3-year deal. I think that's a guy who has the tools to be that kind of receiving back that we haven't seen in the Patriots offense for a couple of years. And it could just add a new wrinkle, be a new guy for Drake May to rely on. And all in all, I think, no, they're not going to be good this year, but I think they have the tools to get better.
Yeah. And also, one of their biggest issues was the left tackle. I mean, they drafted Caden Wallace out of Penn State, who played right tackle. Eventually, they're going to move him to left tackle. And the problem is, though, they don't have a lot of good players on their staff to try to fill that role. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to fill that spot. But, yeah, just going back to these young receivers, though, with KJ Osborne and Drake May, I feel like they're not going to be as competitive this year, but I feel like in years to come, who knows, maybe we'll see a completely different team.
It's year one of a rebuild, and I think it definitely, there is a path. We just have to see. And like I said, it's a puzzle that has to come together. But next up, we have the New York Jets, who finished 7-10 last season. Ben, you're going to talk about them, so I'll let you take it away.
All right. Give me 1 sec. My computer just froze on me. All right,
all
here we
good.
go.
This is their first time not finishing last since 2019, and they have not had a winning season since 2015 with Fitzmagic. Ben, take it away.
All right, so their key additions this offseason, they added wide receiver Mike Williams, coming off a torn ACL, who played for the Chargers last year. So it'll be interesting to see how he'll develop that chemistry on the field especially with Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, and Xavier Gibson. They also added right tackle Morgan Moses, offensive tackle Tyron Smith, guard John Simpson. And I feel like coming out of this offseason for the Jets, I feel like their biggest improvement that they had to make was the offensive line, adding Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith to that roster to protect Aaron Rodgers a little bit more. And also the man himself, Aaron Rodgers, is coming back from a torn Achilles, so it'll be interesting to see how he'll bounce back from that. And I feel like if they can stay healthy, though, they can be an absolute threat in the AFC East. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited to see what the squad has in store for this upcoming season.
The man is 40 years old.
I mean,
He's going to be 41.
he still got it though.
Does he?
though?
We don't know. We saw one play, right?
yeah.
One play.
I mean,
we
yeah.
don't know. We don't know if he's
Yeah.
got it. I mean, this is what is going to have to be depending. But they added the offensive linemen, which are great, but they're also aging offensive linemen who are let go by teams. Teams don't let offensive linemen go unless they're not good or they're Bengals and they don't know how to pay them.
Yeah.
Only two options.
Yeah,
But
I mean, if you look at those free agent signings, Mike Williams, when healthy, is a 1,000-yard receiver. Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle from San Francisco, can be great next to Quinnen Williams when healthy. And then Tyrod Taylor is a great backup QB when healthy. You get the point. This is a team that, even without these free agents, has a history of collapsing because of injuries, and they just got even more injury-prone players. So I think they might have a great start to the year, but I think when it gets to the end, we're going to be like, what the hell happened?
Right.
Well, you mentioned Kinlaw, and they also added Hassan Reddick. That
they did
defensive line is going to be one of the best in the NFL.
Absolutely.
That defense will keep them in games, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But they'll have to score points, and then score points. They got to keep Aaron Rodgers upright, and Breece Hall has to be healthy. Everybody can talk about Aaron Rodgers, and yeah, he is probably the most important. But the next up is Breece Hall. That man running is that entire offense.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to go back to the Jets quarterback situation from last season. Obviously Aaron Rodgers, he tore his Achilles. The QB completion percentage was 59.2% and 11 touchdown passes.
Yeah, also look who was throwing to him. I mean, Zach Wilson was the best of those three quarterbacks.
Right. So, yeah, I feel like with Aaron Rodgers back, we're not going to see those numbers at all.
All right, so next up we have the Miami Dolphins, who finished last season 11-6, coming off their fourth winning season in a row after a pretty rough 2010s for them. Still searching for their first playoff win since 2000, though. Have a good reason to believe. I have a good reason to believe that they will be a contender this season. The offense has remained mostly the same outside of picking up OBJ and tight end Jonnu Smith, who I think is a sneaky grab for these guys. There's some turnover on defense, but I feel like they did a pretty decent job of patching up those holes. I mentioned OBJ, when healthy, is the best wide receiver 3 in the league. Shaq Barrett at the edge is past his prime, but he's still got some in the tank. He can still be a valuable rotational piece. Kendall Fuller as a cornerback from Washington, having him across from Jalen Ramsey is insane to me. You got Jordan Poyer at safety. That's a nice steal from the Bills and a division opponent. That's a guy you don't have to face. Now you have him. And, just going down the list here, I like the Jonnu Smith. He was a second string last year, and I think he can be a tight end 1 threat that this offense did not have last season. Jonathan Harris from Denver is a good one. Jordan Brooks from Seattle, the linebacker. I really like this team's offseason. That's why I made sure I got to talk about them, because I think they got some great players that fit some needs, and maybe they have a chance to do it this year.
Yeah.
Win a playoff game, that is.
Are you sure they can't win the AFC completely?
No, they can. Absolutely.
Because
if this all works out, the main thing that happened last year is that everybody got injured, got hurt, and they just didn't have it. But I think if they stay healthy, even with Tua as their quarterback, I know you don't like him.
I don't.
But they have the pieces in place.
That's the thing. I'm liking the pieces they're putting in place. I love their draft, as we mentioned way back then. Chop Robinson, Patrick Paul, Jalen Wright, Muhammad Kamara, the Washington wide receivers. I love that. Losing some familiarity with Van Ginkel, Howard, Baker, Jones, and Wilkins will probably hurt them a little bit, but all in all, they did pretty solid replacing them, and I think they're clearly the best team in the AFC East.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm looking at Odell Beckham Jr. because, like you mentioned, when healthy, though, he can do a lot of great things on the field, so it'll be interesting to see how he'll develop that chemistry with Tyreek Hill and Jaden Waddle. But I also want to point out the offensive line here that they got during this offseason. They drafted Patrick Paul, second round out of Houston. They got Aaron Brewer, Isaiah Y. And I feel like the question coming out of this is this enough? Will this be enough for Tua to try to compete against these playoff teams? Because last season they were 1-6 against playoff teams. They were 10-1 against non-playoff teams. So I feel like with this offensive line, though, can they protect him better to find Hill, Waddle, and OBJ?
Yeah.
They have the fastest backfield in the NFL, though.
Yeah.
They have Devin A-Chain. They added Wright, and then they got Raheem Mostert, who's getting a little bit up there in age. But
they're up.
Speed wide receivers, athletic tight end, like you mentioned. I have a hard time saying that if they can keep Tua upright, potentially they have the best offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
Nah, I think they do. It's just a matter of how it holds up against just the team in general. Just how do they hold up against the best teams in the NFL? That's been the question for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. We've seen it from time to time. We've seen the flashes. Can they put it together this year? Can they get some playoff wins and make a run? I think that the pieces are there. This is the year. But let's talk about the Buffalo Bills, the last team, as we call them, the island of misfit toys.
Yeah, so the Buffalo Bills. The Bills made some big changes to their team this offseason as they lost a lot of key players.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Leonard Floyd, Tre'Davious White, Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse. How did they plan on replacing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis? Well, let me tell you. Curtis Samuel, Keenan Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool, MVS, Justin Shorter, KJ Hamler, and Andy Isabella. All this tells me is, I know you had the take about Zamir White last week, being a fantasy stud possibly. Give me all the shares of Dalton Kincaid. He is going to throw to that tight end, and when he's done throwing to the tight end, he's going to throw it to the tight end again, and then when he's done throwing to the tight end, he's going to throw it to the tight end again. And if he doesn't throw to the tight end, he's probably going to hand the ball off to James Cook, so keep an eye on him as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Bills, arguably, they've had the craziest offseason. I mean, just like you mentioned, Josh, they traded a bunch of their talented roster. I mean, especially with Stephon Diggs going to Houston, that's the one that kind of freaked me out a little bit because the first question I asked myself was, what are they going to do for receivers? So it'll be interesting to see how Mac Hollins and Keon Coleman will try to fill that role for Josh Allen. But I'm not saying that the Bills are going to have a rough year. I feel like they'll still be contenders in the AFC East and beat that team that I think can be used to seeing. But in a way, I feel like the question is, are they taking a step back? Because in a way, I do have my concerns a little bit with all the new players that are coming in.
Personally, I don't know what the eye roll on the Curtis Samuel pickup was. I like that pickup. He's had time with offensive coordinator Joe Brady's offense. Who's the best quarterback he's had thrown to him?
He also can't stay healthy.
Okay. Fair
I mean,
enough.
he has never been able to stay healthy his entire NFL career.
If he ever figures it out, you think he could be?
I don't think he's the number one, though. That's the thing.
You don't know until
there's
you see
just
it.
a bunch of guys here.
Did you think Rashee Rice would be number one?
With Patrick Mahomes, anybody can be.
That's the point I want to make here. That's the point I want to make here is that Josh Allen has the chance to prove that he, like Patrick Mahomes, can make somebody into a number one wide receiver. And I don't think you can necessarily put it against him if he can't, but that we'll see what separates Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, how far that gap is this season, because he is going to have to make some playmakers in this offense. But I liked your take on Dalton Kincaid. You'll love Phil's hot take this week. Garrett, do we have the theme music this week?
Oh, I think we might.
Oh,
let me go ahead and double check.
Fire that
here.
bad boy up. Fire that. There it is. Yes.
Oh,
It is
yes.
time, boys
It's time
and girls.
for Phil's hot takes.
There he is.
We'll go ahead and fade this audio out.
That's
and
good.
Let's get Phil's hot take for today. Maybe if I can play it.
Will he play it?
Will he play it? It's not playing because I'm dumb. Here we go.
My 2024 AFC East hot take is that Khalil Shakir of the Buffalo Bills leads the AFC East in receiving yards over names like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson. Josh Allen has supported a wide receiver one almost every year of his career, and I expect no different this season. Khalil Shakir to the moon.
I want you to go straight to Josh's face. Look at Josh.
What? What? Dude's not even the best one. Oh my god.
He didn't stutter. He didn't stutter.
Oh my god. Please get him on actual pod so I can just rip him apart.
We need a Phil guest episode.
But anyways, I'll go ahead and start where we normally do with a quick rundown of where everybody finishes. I didn't get to go full in depth on the exact standings, but I'm going to go with the New England Patriots finishing in last place yet
Shocker.
again. Buffalo Bills finishing in third. Jets finishing in second. All three teams under 500. And then the Miami Dolphins going 6-0 in the division and being the second best team in the AFC when it comes to standings.
All right, for myself, I'm going Patriots at the bottom. I'm going Bills third. I'm going with the Dolphins second, and the Jets will win. The Jets will win the AFC East.
Fell in love with the Jets, huh?
Yeah.
All right. I have New England at the bottom where they belong with a 3-14 record. I have the New York Jets finishing third with an 8-9 record. I have the Buffalo Bills finishing second with a 10-7 record, and then at the top, the Miami Dolphins win the division with an 11-6 record. I'm a little harsh on the Dolphins when I went through their schedule, so they could definitely finish better. But the Bills, I had actually starting out like 1-7 or like 1-6 and something, and then just turning it around about halfway through. I think the Jets have a very good start to the season. But I think they'll get a bunch of injuries there once we get to that halfway, get that turning point, and they'll just end up around 500. But I see everybody's takes here. I don't think there's anything too out of the box.
Yeah, the only thing that I could question a little bit, and I'm curious of your guys' thoughts, is if the Bills were to miss the playoffs.
Yep.
Sean McDermott, gone. This is his 8th year.
Is it his fault, everything that's happened? Like,
it's always the head coach's fault. Don't you know how it works in the NFL?
This is true.
I mean, was there a lot of talks about it recently, or
no? It's just like a lot of times when you see a team like the Bills on the downward trajectory. I mean, they've lost in the divisional round 3 times in a row.
I mean, he's Marvin Lewis, guys. He's Marvin Lewis.
He isn't Marvin Lewis.
No, he is.
How
is he
Marvin Lewis 2.0?
How?
He's just barely above 500. He gets
How
to the
many
playoff
playoff
every once
wins
in a
did
while.
Marvin Lewis have?
0.
There you have it.
Yeah.
So he's not Marvin Lewis.
No, they're the same.
Marvin Lewis never sniffed in an AFC championship.
No.
Yeah, because Carson Palmer's knees got torn to shreds. Because Andy Dalton tore everything in his thumb. Do we really want to go there, Colton? Boy, oh boy.
Regardless, he never sniffed it. I don't care what the outside. I mean, there's outside factors on Sean McDermott too, if we want to bring that up. But
anyway, I think we're almost running out of time, so I'm gonna hit the alarm, even though the alarm didn't go off this week. And we're gonna.
There it is. There it is.
All right. We're gonna go with the 2-minute warning, gentlemen. So we just talked about the AFC East, and we heard a horrible take about an AFC breakout player. Colton, who's your AFC breakout player?
I am riding with Phil. I mean, the name is blanking, but whoever he said. Khalil Shakir. Why did I add that name blank? Probably because I never heard him before.
I don't know how you can possibly blank on a take like that.
That's true.
I'm going with Garrett Wilson for the Jets. I feel like this is the year that he'll make his first Pro Bowl, and with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, I look for him to do some great things on the field this year.
For me, it is going to be the man who also plays for the Jets, though, but he's the wide receiver they drafted, Malachi Corley. I love him. I think he's actually better than Mike Williams, and I think he will be the number 2 wide receiver in New York. Gentlemen, who is your early pick to win the Heisman? Everybody already heard mine, Jackson Dart.
I'm going with Quinn Ewers from Texas.
I should have gone first. Quinn Ewers. He was my Heisman pick last year. I'm gonna just repeat that one. The Utah quarterback would probably be the only other one that would have.
Andy Dalton 2.0. Gentlemen, who should be the starting 5 for Team USA?
2.0 is crazy.
For me, I don't care about the starting 5. It doesn't matter. It's about how you close, and I just want the best. I just want the best 5 players on the. I just want the best 5 players on the court. Colton, did I steal yours? Oh,
Yes.
How's that feel? Anyway, Ben,
Dog,
do you
my
got
stuff
your
gets
5?
stolen all the
mean-
time on this show. What are you?
I mean, just like you, I'm not really too picky about it though. But if I had to pick 5, it'll be Curry, James, Embiid, Durant, and Tatum.
Yeah, just any lineup with Curry and James in it. I'm
And then
accepting
lastly,
that.
gentlemen, who is going to win the Brickyard 400?
Give me Blaney back to back. Love the Ford vibes. Love the Blaney vibes. Number 12 in victory lane.
I'm going with Denny Hamlin. Last time they were at the Brickyard in 2020, should have won it. Blew a right front in turn 1, but I feel like he'll get it done this weekend.
Chase Briscoe.
I want Chase Briscoe, but I'm changing my pick. 1994 to 24 went to the victory lane. 2004, 24 went to victory lane. 2014, 24 went to victory lane. 2024, William Byron, victory lane.
Wow, Daytona 500 and Brickyard.
There you have it. It's not crown jewel, but there you have it. That is the 2-minute warning. That is the show for today. I hope you all did enjoy our all over the place show. If you did, be sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and of course, comment down below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so we can get that 100 subscriber goal, so you can have our first giveaway of our existence. And then we have our Twitter or X. Follow us there at Norse Benchwarmers Pod. And of course, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, NKU Media Services. And thank you all for coming on to the show today. We will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.